Sky News.
An RAF helicopter pilot who was shot in the head while flying in Afghanistan has been awarded the DFC, the Distinguished Flying Cross. Despite his injuries, Flight Lieutenant Ian Fortune managed to get his aircraft carrying wounded troops safely back to base. Sky's Simon Newton reports.
It was a mission that's gone down in flying folklore.
Hi, chaps, just to let you know, it took a round through my front windscreen, which came up and hit me on the head. Got a bit of a crack and a bleed there.
Flight Lieutenant Ian Fortune telling his crew he's been hit in the head by a Taliban bullet. But despite his injuries, he flew on, coaxing his battle-scarred Chinook back to base. Today, that extraordinary bravery was recognised, with Ian at Buckingham Palace to receive the Distinguished Flying Cross from Prince Charles.
It's a tremendous award I feel privileged to receive, and obviously accept it on behalf of myself and my crew and all the men and women that continue to do a fabulous job out in Afghanistan.
Ian was rescuing a group of US and Afghan troops when he was hit. Incredibly, his helmet took most of the impact, leaving him bloodied and dazed, but still able to fly.
I remember struggling to stop smiling, because that realisation that, right, you've just been hit in the head somewhere and you've survived and you haven't got much damage. Your face is okay, that's the important thing. It's amazing. This tremendous sense of euphoria. And then snap straight back into, right, is the aircraft okay? Are the rest of my crew okay?
Can you hold it a little higher for us, please, sir?
Ian's the third Chinook pilot from RAF Odium to win the DFC for exceptional gallantry in the air. His family with him to share his big day. At the age of just 29, Ian Fortune's become something of a military legend. His display of flying that day described by his commanding officer as amongst the most outstanding acts of bravery ever seen on an aircraft.
That's it, we're able, we're away.
That bravery also saved the lives of TV presenter Mike Brewer and his film crew, who were on board the Chinook shooting a documentary.
Ian describes it as a sort of 20-minute crash all the way back to Camp Bastion. And I can only tell you it was the most remarkable act of courage and bravery I've ever seen in my life.
Although he escaped with minor injuries, Ian still bears a few scars of his brush with death. He's due to return to Afghanistan soon, a modest hero with many more dangerous missions to fly. Simon Newton, Sky News at Buckingham Palace.
Just back to that earthquake in southeastern Spain, a little bit more detail. The US Geological Survey are now saying it was of 5.3 magnitude, so quite a hefty earthquake, quite serious there. We're hearing that it was mainly in the areas of Lorca and Murcia down in the southeastern corner there, and that there has been some structural damage to buildings and apparently the collapse of a road, one or two other things there. But at the moment, we're not hearing that there were any deaths, but certainly there may have been some injuries. It's still, quite thin detail at the moment. It only happened a short time ago. We'll bring you more detail when we get it. To Scotland now, and the 129 MSPs have taken their seats the first time since the Scottish National Party's success at last week's Holyrood election. And despite swearing allegiance to the Queen, the SNP leader has already promised an independence referendum. So what would an independent Scotland be like? Sky's James Matthews has been taking a look.
In Scotland's Holyrood Parliament, they've been swearing in its MSPs.
I, Alexander Elliot Anderson Salmon.
Gema Hamisha, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. Hamisha Alistair Seamus Allen, Aminachuk Gamajilis.
A multilingual, multicultural chamber, but one single issue stands out: Scottish independence. Of course, they're not making the Scottish passport just yet, but if and when they do, it might look something like this. The SNP's vision is that Scots could have dual nationality. They could carry a Scottish passport but still be citizens of the British Isles they left behind, assuming Westminster agrees. Qualifications for being Scottish would depend on ancestry, birth or residency. It's one of a number of the SNP's published intentions, their blueprint for breaking away. Their independent Scotland would have a Scottish Defence Force, an army with a primary focus on defending Scottish territory, not fighting wars overseas. the Scotland-England border would look much as it does today. There would be no customs or immigration posts, in line with freedom of movement within the EU. The economy would be built around renewable energy and the oil and gas reserves in the North Sea, notwithstanding any legal challenge over rights of access. There would be no nuclear weapons on Scottish soil. The nuclear submarine fleet currently based on the Clyde would be relocated back over the border. So the question now being asked, not for the first time, certainly not for the last, is can Scotland do it?
Most people would agree that it's a credible option now. There are many countries, newly independent states around the world, which are sometimes smaller than Scotland or a similar size, sometimes with a similar economy or even indeed a weaker economy, and they seem to be progressing. So it seems to be a credible option. But whether or not it's an attractive option is a matter of debate.
A yes-no debate on independence that we put to one businessman, let's call him Mr. Yes, and to another, Mr. No.
Economics is all tied in as a union. It cannot survive by itself.
I would say yes. I don't see any major issues with becoming independent from the rest of the UK. In fact, I think we'll be more Scotland as opposed to Northern England.
TV would be different under independence. BBC Scotland would be replaced by a Scottish Broadcasting Corporation. It would probably need a correspondent at the United Nations, where Scotland would be a full member. After a referendum on independence, there would be another one on whether or not to ditch the pound for the euro. And people would get the vote in Scotland at 16. As the voting age gets lower, the stakes get higher. James Matthews, Sky News, Edinburgh.
I think John's got a bit of Scottish football coming up, but what else you got?
Jeremy, we're going to hear from former Ryder Cup captains with their thoughts on the day that they laid Severiano Ballesteros to rest in his village in Spain. And what happened when Kevin Pietersen made his cricketing comeback.
I need some clarity.
What do you want to feel?
I just want to feel.
In Treatment, double episodes Friday from 10:15, Sky Atlantic HD, Channel 108.
Sun is shining in the sky. There ain't a cloud.